Hey there! I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this explainer on navigating the essential compliance rules for manufacturing medicated animal feed. Whether you're just stepping into the world of operational compliance, or you just want a clear, no-nonsense look at what federal guidelines actually demand from a facility, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to take those dense regulatory materials and translate them into practical, everyday professional standards that you can actually use.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever wondered what exactly happens when everyday animal feed crosses paths with potent pharmaceuticals? Well, just like with human medicine, mixing drugs into animal nutrition requires absolute, unwavering precision. We aren't just tossing vitamins into a blender here, right? We are dealing with active medical ingredients that have to be carefully controlled. Why? Because we need to protect the health of the animals and ultimately the safety of our entire food supply. The regulations we're exploring today act as the ultimate guardrails for that entire process.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the basics of medicated feed, your facilities, equipment, and people, ensuring quality and cleanliness, proper labeling and record keeping, tracking, complaints, and recalls, and finally, the real cost of falling short.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the basics of medicated feed, setting the standard for safety. Before we can even talk about running a facility day to day, we really need to understand the fundamental legal standard we're all trying to meet. Because, well, in the eyes of regulators, your good intentions don't matter nearly as much as the actual integrity of your process. You're going to hear the term adulterated thrown around a lot in compliance circles. In everyday professional terms, a product doesn't have to be physically tainted or poisoned to earn this label. If your manufacturing process is sloppy, if your facility isn't up to code, or if you simply lack the proper controls, the final product is legally deemed unsafe. It's adulterated. Poor processes alone can trigger this status, regardless of whether the feed actually harms an animal. It's a remarkably strict standard, but it's the foundation for absolutely everything else we'll discuss.
Let's move to Section 2, facilities, equipment, and people, building a compliant environment. Okay, so let's look at our first major pillar, the physical building and the team running it. You just cannot produce a safe product in a compromised environment. It's impossible. The physical requirements for a manufacturing plant are definitely not just helpful suggestions. They are mandatory foundational steps designed to prevent contamination from the environment itself. Your grounds literally must have proper drainage so you don't have standing water-attracting pests. You absolutely need routine pest control to keep rodents and birds far, far away from your ingredients. Inside, workspaces require excellent lighting so your employees can actually see what they're doing. And your equipment, it has to be positioned so that maintenance crews can easily access and clean it. Everything must have its proper place.
But you know, a state-of-the-art facility means absolutely zero without the right people. Regulators are crystal clear on this. Your staff must fully understand their specific roles. This is exactly why ongoing employee training and active supervision are strictly required. I mean, if an operator doesn't understand why a specific scale needs to be calibrated or how to properly load an ingredient, the entire batch is suddenly at risk. Training isn't just a one-and-done orientation on day one, it's a continuous, mandatory professional requirement.
Which brings us to Section 3, ensuring quality and cleanliness, preventing dangerous mix-ups.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. We've got the building and the people, right? Now we have to look at the process itself. Precision in your day-to-day operations is where safety is truly maintained on the floor. A lot of feed manufacturers also handle agricultural products, things like fertilizers, weed killers, or rodent poisons. The rule here is absolute. Equipment and workspaces used for medicated feed can never, ever cross paths with industrial chemicals. They have to be physically separated. You cannot mix a batch of medicated feed in a space where toxic fungicides might drift or spill into the mix. It is a strict zero-tolerance policy for cross-contamination. To maintain that intense level of strict purity, equipment must be meticulously cleaned between runs. This prevents active drugs from accidentally ending up in the wrong batch of feed. There are 3 approved ways to do this. First up, physical cleaning, literally getting in there and vacuuming, washing, or sweeping the machinery out. Second is flushing. This is where you run a safe, drug-free material through the whole system just to push out any leftover residue. And third is sequencing, which means you carefully plan your production schedule so that leftover traces from one batch won't harm the specific animals eating the next batch.
All right, on to Section 4, proper labeling and record keeping, documenting every detail.
This brings us to the paperwork side of the operation. Now, in the eyes of a compliance officer, if a step isn't accurately documented and clearly labeled, it simply didn't happen. Labeling errors are actually a massive source of safety risks and product recalls. That's exactly why the rules require you to store your printed labels in a highly secure, organized way so an operator doesn't accidentally grab the wrong stack. When fresh labels arrive from the printer, a responsible team member has to verify them against the master blueprint to ensure every single word is accurate, and then sign and date it to prove they checked it. And if a label format is retired, it must be promptly thrown away so it doesn't accidentally get used a year down the line.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the daily drug inventory requirement. At the end of every single day, a facility has to compare the theoretical amount of a drug they should have used, based on their recipes, against the actual amount of drug that is physically missing from the shelf. Look at drug batch B there. If you were supposed to use 100 pounds of an active drug, but you only used 90 pounds, where did those 10 pounds go? Or worse, what if you used 110 pounds? Any discrepancy means you have to immediately halt the affected product and investigate before it leaves the building. It's essentially a daily math test where failure is not an option.
All of this incredibly detailed information is tied to what's called a master record file. Think of this as the ultimate recipe book and historical blueprint for your product. It contains the precise formulas, the exact manufacturing steps, and all those labeling requirements. The strict rule here is that you must retain this master file along with all those specific daily production logs for at least 1 full year after the final batch of that feed is distributed. When auditors walk through your doors, trust me, this is the very first thing they're going to ask to see.
Section 5. Tracking, complaints, and recalls. Your safety net. Look, no matter how perfect your facility is, things can still go sideways once the product has left the building and is out in the real world. You have to be prepared to respond. When you ship a product, your distribution records must be flawless. They need to include the exact date, the purchaser's name and address, the exact quantity, the specific product name, and crucially, a unique lot or control number. These details, they aren't just for your accounting team. They are legally required. If there's a contamination issue, you need to be able to instantly trace exactly where that specific batch went and initiate an emergency recall before any animals are harmed. And a huge part of that safety net is how you handle negative feedback. If a customer calls with a complaint regarding the safety or effectiveness of a feed, you can't just brush it off. You are legally required to maintain a formal complaint file. You've got to log the exact grievance, record the product slot number, do a deep dive internal investigation to see if your facility made a mistake, and then document exactly how you resolved it. Maintaining this file is absolutely critical because it helps you spot hidden manufacturing flaws long before they escalate into a full-blown crisis.
Finally, Section 6, the cost of falling short. What actually happens if you miss the mark?
So, we've covered the basics, the facility standards, the cleanliness protocols, the paperwork, and the safety nets. But what are the real, tangible consequences if a facility decides to cut corners on these regulatory pillars? Well, the crucial point is this. Non-compliance is not just a minor slap on the wrist. If an inspection reveals that your facility is failing to meet these standards, say your records are a total mess, your equipment isn't getting cleaned right, or toxic chemicals are sitting too close to the feed, your product will be legally deemed adulterated, period. This immediately halts your distribution, it completely shuts down your operation, and most importantly, it poses a direct, unacceptable risk to public safety and the broader food supply.
I want to leave you with this final thought to consider as you evaluate your own professional practices. Are your daily operational procedures truly safeguarding the food chain? Every single time a label is checked, or a scale is calibrated, or a machine is swept out, you aren't just ticking a boring compliance box. You are actively protecting animals and consumers alike. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep those standards incredibly high, and I will catch you next time.
If you found this helpful or want to stay updated when this regulation changes, subscribe and support the channel. And if you need the full technical details on this CFR, click the link in the description below. See you next time.